Hey, everybody. So glad to be here with all of you tonight. We're going to have a late night conversation tonight. Yeah, glad you're here. Should be good. So let's go.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. So glad that you all are here. I hope everyone is having a lovely evening. We're going to do this live just the same way that we always do. I will be giving opening remarks. Then from there, I'll answer people's questions. There'll be a roll call first, and then I answer people's questions for the second half of the show. So if you got something you'd like to talk about in the second half of the show, best thing to do is send me a buy me a coffee. That is the best way to send questions. Buy me a coffee, Caleb Maupin. Boom, questions come in. You can be anonymous. You can talk as long as you want. It's the best way to do it. You can also send Rumble rants. You can also cash at me at Caleb Maupin 22. All three options work, but the best option is buy me a coffee. That is the best way to ask your question. Now, very exciting. We just had our weekly members check-in on CPI, our weekly call. We're going to be in the streets October 4th in multiple cities to support the peace talks with Russia, our National Day of Action. Following up, we were in the streets August 15th and 16th. We're going to be in the streets again on Saturday. We're having a small rally in New York City. New location. We're going to have a small rally in Chicago. We're going to have a small rally in Minneapolis, a small rally in Los Angeles, small rally in Boston. We're going to have people in Missouri and different parts of the country. It's really, really great. So check out our National Day of Action. Get involved. Maybe have a small action in your area. Send video to us if you're planning to do something on your own. Yeah, I'm very excited, and shout out to everyone who's working really hard. CPI, we have some really great people. Minneapolis, LA, Boston, New York, Chicago. I mean, our members are very, very dedicated. The amount that we get done as an organization is absolutely massive. I'm so proud to be a member of CPI. We have dedicated people who are building a real movement, and it's very, very exciting. So join the Center for Political Innovation because we're doing it. National Day of Action, calling for peace with Russia. Very, very awesome. So, yeah, like I said, tonight's live stream, we're just going to follow our normal format. First, I'll give my opening remarks. Then from there, we'll do a roll call. Then from there, I will answer your questions for the remainder of the night. So if you've got something you want to talk about, the best way to send a question, buy me a coffee. Caleb Maupin, best way to send your question. You can also do a Rumble rant, and you can also cash at me at Caleb Maupin 22. All three methods work, but the best way, the absolute best way, is buy me a coffee. Well, folks, today the government is shut down. First of all, federal government is shut down, and what's interesting is that it's the Democrats who have shut it down against Trump. This started out as a thing that Republicans did to Democrats. This first started in the 90s with Newt Gingrich, and it was a way that the Republicans demanded austerity from the Clinton administration. They would, demand the Clinton administration cut government spending, and they would have a government shutdown. They wouldn't approve the budget unless they got what they wanted. Continued. They did it under Obama a number of times as part of the Tea Party Republicans and their demand for austerity. And then when Trump got in, suddenly Democrats started doing it. And now here we are with the federal government shut down. And I have always said, every time the federal government shuts down, I have always said, I really wish this was for real. I wish that in all the federal prisons, all the guards would just say, you know what? The government's shut down. We're going home. We're going home. And they would just walk away and all the prisoners could go away. I wish that all the soldiers that are overseas, they say, hey, the government's shut down. You're all coming home. No more war. We're having to call off the war. The government's shut down. I wish that, all of the nuclear weapons facilities and, obviously it doesn't work that way. Certain essential services will continue. It's just an austerity game. It's just in a way to, pressure different cuts. Now, in this case, it seems that Republicans are demanding some cuts, and Trump is trying to move ahead with certain cuts. Democrats are not willing to agree with it. Democrats also want to hurt Trump's image and hurt Donald Trump. So the federal government is shut down, and they'll come up with a deal in a week or so. It's a game of bluff, right? Like, how long will the government be shut down? Federal employees won't get paid, which is pretty awful, right? It's pretty awful for federal employees. A lot of things won't get done. And then the essential services will come back on once they reach a deal. It's all very, very stupid. It's all very, very stupid. But it's actually very interesting because today is October 1st, and today is the anniversary of the Chinese Revolution. And every time we have a government shutdown in the United States, the Chinese media goes wild talking about it, because if there was a government shutdown in China, everything would shut down because they have a largely state-run economy. Now, they have private enterprise, a big private sector, but the state is directing everything. And the Chinese government would never shut down, right? The idea of the Chinese government shutting down, it's almost foreign to them. And so in the Chinese press, every time there is a government shutdown in America, they show it in Chinese media, and the Chinese folks are like, how is this possible? They have a different system than we do, right? They have a completely different system than we do. You can contrast it. In China, if the government shut down, China would come apart because China's government runs the economy and controls the means of production. However, in America, the government can shut down nominally, and it's bad, but things keep happening because we have a largely private economy, and they don't shut down everything. Obviously, certain quote unquote essential services keep going. However, if our stock market were to really tank, go down 60 points in a day or something like that, there would be riots in the streets. But in China, I've written many times about the collapse that never happened. In 2015, it's one of the articles I wrote for RT.com years ago. In 2015, the Chinese stock market crashed. The Shanghai stock market of China crashed, and that was the end of the Chinese economy, we were told. That was the end. It was over. It was over. It was done. The Shanghai stock market went down by 60 points in a day, and that was the end. That was the end. You can read the article here. It was all over. It was done. And within a week, the Chinese stock market was right back where it used to be. The whole economy was completely insulated from the stock market because profits are not in command. So while China, a government shutdown, would end China, the government, the state that comes out of an anti-colonial struggle is what manages China's economy. In America, a government shutdown isn't going to kill us, but what would kill us would be a stock market crash. In China, they can have a stock market crash. And what happened? The Chinese Communist Party called up all the major shareholders, told them, if you are caught short selling, betting that a stock goes down, we will arrest you. We will drag you out of your office in handcuffs. And they froze the selling of stocks on the state-run industries. Boom. A week later, the economy was up. And most of the Chinese economy is in no way tied into the stock market. It's completely insulated from it. And I wrote an article about this at the time, because it actually really does demonstrate the difference between what I understand to be socialism and capitalism. Now, obviously, nowadays, there's all kinds of different stuff out there, about what socialism and capitalism are. But my understanding is that capitalism is the system of profits in command, the anarchy of production, the irrationality of the market. And socialism is when the banks, factories, and industries are operated according to rational planning and public good. And China, despite having a vast market sector with all kinds of people making a lot of money and a lot of inequality and all kinds of things, it has a state-run economy. And, today is the annual day to commemorate the victory of the People's Republic of China, the founding of the People's Republic. This is the day in 1949 where Mao Zedong came to Tiananmen Square and said, the Chinese people have stood up, and the People's Republic of China was declared. And China, you'll remember, was a people's democracy. That was the name of the form of government. They did not call themselves a socialist country. They said, we are a people's democratic country. And the Chinese Communist Party represented a block of four classes: the workers, the peasants, the urban merchants, and the national bourgeoisie. All of the classes against the imperialists, led by the Chinese Communist Party, to build a new China. And they were a people's democracy. And for the whole 1950s, there were millionaires who never had their property touched, right? They called themselves a people's democracy. This is actually a very good book about China that was published in the 1950s. And it's about China in the early years of the Chinese Revolution. It's by Adler, Solomon Adler, who was an American communist. He wrote this book for Monthly Review Press, The Chinese Economy, about the new democratic phase of the Chinese Revolution in the 1950s, before they declared that they were fully a socialist country, when they're in the process of what they called the new democratic revolution, led by the Communist Party, in which they built some state-run industries, some power plants, they launched, some collective farms, et cetera. But largely, the economy was largely private as the state was kind of building up state-run industries. It's very interesting. And in America, the Chinese Revolution of 1949 escalated McCarthyism. And that's really an important thing to understand. So McCarthyism in America went through three phases. And people don't know this, right? Generally, when you think of McCarthyism, people just think of, in the 1950s, everyone was really afraid of communists. And they killed the Rosenbergs, and a lot of communists went to jail, and they investigated Hollywood. And it actually is much more complicated than that. There were three stages of McCarthyism. The first stage of McCarthyism was the Democrats cleaning their own house, so to speak. And it was the Democratic Party, led by Harry Truman, purging the Roosevelt wing that had been sympathetic to communism. There were a number of people in the Roosevelt administration, and Roosevelt himself, who thought the Soviet Union was a great ally against the Nazis, who thought that cooperating with the Soviet Union after World War II would be a great thing to do. Henry Wallace, who had been Roosevelt's vice president in his third term for most of the Second World War. Henry Wallace, Alger Hiss, who had represented the United States at the United Nations. And there were a number of these people that they were Democrats, and they were anti-fascists, and they were very friendly to the Soviet Union, and they had spoken at Communist Party events, and they had been to the Soviet Union, and they thought Stalin was a good guy, and they were not like literally members of the Communist Party, but they were from a wing of the American government, the Roosevelt wing of the Democrat Party, that felt like communism, the communists had some good ideas, the Soviet Union was a good ally. And the Democrat Party purged those folks. And the purging was done by the urban political machines, the Democratic Party's urban political machines. New York City, you got Tammany Hall. Chicago, you got the Rizzo machine, or is it Philadelphia? You got the Rizzo machine. Yeah, in Chicago, you got the Daley machine. The urban political machines tend to be Roman Catholics, Italians, and Irish folks, and they had opposed Roosevelt. The leader of the American Liberty League had been Al Smith, who was a Roman Catholic Democratic Party boss in New York City. He had quit supporting Roosevelt and formed the American Liberty League. He was a Democrat against Roosevelt because he was a stern Catholic and he did not approve of Roosevelt's, support for labor unions and anti-fascism, etc. Al Smith and the urban political machines teamed up with Truman after World War II to purge the Democrat Party of communist sympathizers, basically. And that it took on kind of an ethnic component. It was Catholic labor unionists versus Jewish labor union activists, right? And it was the Catholic trade union federations, they were called. In most labor unions, you had a communist fraction, people that were in the Communist Party, people that were in the Socialist Party, people that were in Trotskyist groups, and then you had the Roman Catholic trade union federations. And Catholicism was very anti-communist in the 1950s, and the communists were very anti-Catholic during the 1950s. It's very interesting. That shifted after Vatican II in the 1960s, but in the 50s, coming out of World War II, and this comes across if you read any communist literature from that time, from the immediate aftermath of the Second World War. This is one of my favorite books. Some of the best, writing and articulation of the Communist Party's position. The Twilight of World Capitalism by William Z. Foster, published in 1949. You read this book, there ain't no love for the Roman Catholic Church in here. Foster spends a lot of time talking about how the Roman Catholic Church is complicit in the crimes of Adolf Hitler, is pro-fascist, is anti-Semitic. And the Catholic Church during these years was very, very anti-communist. There was a slogan they used to say, "Kill a commie for Christ," right? And the Catholic Church very much considered the Communist Party to be atheistic and their enemy, and etc. And this was because Western Europe, not Britain, but the European mainland, France, Germany, Italy, was up for grabs. A big chunk of Germany became the German Democratic Republic. East Germany, the French Communist Party surged in membership. The Italian Communist Party surged in membership. And the Vatican was largely being accused by the communists of being complicit. And the Vatican very much saw communism as atheistic and a threat. And the communists were accusing the Vatican of being fascist aligned, of having been, participating in the crimes of the Holocaust, etc. And that on the European mainland, there was a pretty intense fight between the Catholic Church and the Communist Party, the Communist parties. And because of that, the Catholic Church was in a full-on anti-communist mode during these years. And in the United States, the Catholic trade union federations and the Roman Catholic urban Democrats, they kind of led the fight to purge the Democrat Party of Rooseveltians who were sympathetic to communism. But then, in 1949, the People's Republic of China was created. The Chinese mainland was unified under the leadership of the Communist Party. Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan. And from the island of Taiwan, he maintained that his government was the Republic of China and that the People's Republic on the mainland was phony. But regardless, Taiwan called itself and still calls itself the Republic of China. But the People's Republic on the mainland became the official government of China. And then McCarthyism shifted from the Communist Party being outlawed and prosecuted, from the Democrats purging their own ranks, to the Republicans accusing the Democrats of being soft on communism. And the slogan was, "Who lost China?" Who lost China? And they basically said that Roosevelt had handed Eastern Europe over to Stalin, and that Truman had lost China, and that the Democrats were not effective anti-communists. And that was the second phase of McCarthyism. And that's really where Joe McCarthy emerged, right? Joe McCarthy was a Republican from Wisconsin who was very anti-communist. He was just a low-level senator, a political figure who had been recently elected. And he was in West Virginia. And he gave a speech and he said, "I have here in my hand a list of," and they dispute how many he said. Originally it was 200, then it was 100, then it was 50, then it was some. "I have a list here in my hand of card-carrying communists who work at the State Department." And that kind of kicked off Joe McCarthy's career as being the Republican who was leading the fight against communism in the American government. And then Republicans, lambasted Harry Truman for being soft on communism, having lost China to the communists. The Democrats became the target, and it was Republicans that were pushing the anti-communism. And then and that led to, you had the execution of the Rosenbergs. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed. Stalin died in 1953. Things started shifting. And then it became, at that point, it became the Democrats and the Republicans kind of facing an insurgency against the American political establishment led by Joe McCarthy. And that's when McCarthyism started to decline, and the ruling class kind of locked arms against Joe McCarthy and the mainstream media and others, and Joe McCarthy was kind of marginalized and taken down. And eventually he was censured by the U.S. Congress for his activities, and he eventually drank himself to death, died of alcohol poisoning. But yeah, it went through three phases. The Democrats purging their own ranks, the Republicans accusing the Democrats of being soft on communism, and then this weird spin-off in the Republican Party where McCarthy led kind of a very hardcore faction within the Republican Party that had a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans very afraid of it. And, there's all kinds of situations. There was a member of Congress who committed suicide because Joe McCarthy found out that his son was gay and blackmailed him over that. And he said, his son had been arrested for, indecent behavior at a gay nightclub or something. And Joe McCarthy said, look, I will go public with this. I will let the whole world know that your son was arrested for being gay. And it'll destroy your reputation unless you do what I want. And so the guy killed himself, and he left a suicide note basically saying that's what happened. That obviously didn't look too good for Joe McCarthy. But there were a lot of other things that were going on at the time that really, hurt, that Joe McCarthy was doing things that were not in the interest of American imperialism. For example, Yugoslavia, 1948, Tito cut ties with the Soviet Union. Tito was the first communist leader to turn against the Soviets. Josip Broz Tito denounced the Soviet government. And so the USA immediately started giving huge amounts of money and funding to Yugoslavia. Well, Joe McCarthy says, you can't do that. That's funding communism, right? We can't fund a communist government. Tito claimed he was still a communist, right? He was just not, not a Stalinist, not a Soviet-aligned communist. He had his own worker self-management or whatever. Well, the McCarthyists, oh my God, you can't be doing that. The McCarthyists went after Voice of America because they felt that the anti-communist propaganda from the American government was not was repeating communist talking points. One thing that I was recently reading, I was reading a biography of Joe McCarthy. One thing is that the USA was hoping to negotiate with the communist government in China, but State Department employees were being dragged before the House Un-American Activities Committee and being challenged. How loyal are you to the American government? How loyal are you? And so State Department employees were saying things like, if the U.S. government ever were to try and give diplomatic recognition to the government of China, I would step down immediately. I would resign. I would never do that. And how are you going to negotiate with China? Right? China it's the government that runs the Chinese mainland. And if all these State Department employees have pledged before Congress, I will never help, work towards and never offer diplomatic recognition to the Chinese government, you can't negotiate with China. And that Joe McCarthy was demanding all this over-the-top anti-communism that was basically tying the American government's arm. And Stalin had died, and there was there was a power struggle within the Soviet Communist Party. And eventually Khrushchev came in, and Khrushchev wanted to reconcile with the United States to some degree or other. But yet there was this wing of the American government that was anyone who said anything like they might want slightly better relations with the Soviet Union was accused of being a communist and had their reputation destroyed. And they lied about people. They had fake photographs of like people with, Earl Browder was the leader of the Communist Party. They had a fake photograph of somebody. Oh, look, here he is with Earl Browder. It was not real. It was a forgery. There were many, many examples of this. And McCarthyism was ultimately hurting the American imperialist system. I mean, they wanted to, deal with the fact that big chunks of the world were shifting into the Soviet camp. And in order to do that, they needed to be strategic. They needed to align with Yugoslavia. They needed to be able to negotiate with the Chinese government on the main. They couldn't do any of that because the McCarthyists were terrorizing government officials and demanding that everyone just be so pure in their anti-communism, demanding everyone take all kinds of pledges and, oh, we'll never be friendly. And it was hurting the interests of American imperialism. Now, what's also interesting about the Joe McCarthy thing, there's a couple things that are interesting about it. But one thing is that Dwight Eisenhower, he very much was elected because a number of Democrats said the only way we can stop Joe McCarthy, who had kind of basically had the U.S. Congress, he was holding them hostage, basically. No one could do anything out of fear that Joe McCarthy would mobilize. He had a radio host named Fulton Lewis Jr. He had a lot of people grouped around him, and the American Congress was afraid to do anything, right? That a bunch of Democrats said, all right, we'll get Dwight Eisenhower will be the president. And Dwight Eisenhower is a Republican. And with a Republican in the White House, we can then stop Joe McCarthy. Because if a Democrat remained in the White House, Joe McCarthy would be fighting the Democrats, and he would be fighting the Democrats in the name of anti-communism, and it would be hard to stop him. But with a Republican in the White House, Joe McCarthy would be controlled. And so Harry Truman was out. Dwight Eisenhower took office, and Dwight Eisenhower, he was the president who ultimately did in Joe McCarthy. And as a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower was able to control Joe McCarthy. A very, very fascinating history, I think. And Joe McCarthy, another weird detail is Joe McCarthy was on the one hand, he was obsessively anti-gay, right? That they actually formed a government commission to investigate the links between homosexuality and communism. It was an official government board. Joe McCarthy arranged for a law to be passed that no gay person could work at the State Department because they would be blackmailed. The idea was if you were gay, they could blackmail that. And he, blackmailed a member of Congress because his son was gay. So he was constantly accusing people of being gay and was, always playing up the idea that homosexuality was a threat and it was tied in with communism. But Joe McCarthy himself was always surrounded by gay people. And that is fascinating. It is one of the most bizarre things. But Roy Cohn, who was Joe McCarthy's lawyer, right? This young lawyer from New York City who was Jewish. And Joe McCarthy's lawyer, Roy Cohn, was gay. And ultimately, the Army McCarthy hearings, it was, Joe McCarthy's lawyer, Roy Cohn, had a boyfriend, Shine. I can't remember his first name, but his boyfriend basically got drafted. Shine, David Shine, was another young guy who worked with Joe McCarthy. And David Shine was Roy Cohn's boyfriend. And David Shine got drafted into the U.S. Army. And Roy Cohn wanted his boyfriend to come back. And so they were trying to figure out ways to get David Shine out of the Army. And they were putting all kinds of pressure on the U.S. Army to get David Shine. And that was the way that ultimately the Army McCarthy hearings, that was ultimately what did them in. It's a very, very bizarre situation. And Joe McCarthy himself was gay. And Hank Greenspun is the guy who revealed that, the Nevada newspaper tycoon, Hank Greenspun, who we now know was a Mossad operative. He's the one who first revealed that Joe McCarthy had homosexual proclivities. He published a story about it. Joe McCarthy denied the whole thing, and then the next day married his secretary. He married his secretary the next day. That looks, that's not suspicious at all. And just to prove he's not gay, he got married, to his secretary the next day. That's a little bit interesting. And there were a number of people from the U.S. military who described how Joe McCarthy had sexually molested them. Joe McCarthy would get young men drunk and rape them. And Joe McCarthy himself had homosexual proclivities. So it's like Joe McCarthy had homosexual proclivities. He hired two young men, David Shine and Roy Cohn, that were gay together. And that's ultimately what they, kind of destroyed his reputation over. But yet he was constantly accusing everybody else of being gay. It was very bizarre. It's a very, 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 very bizarre thing, is that Joe McCarthy hates gay people obsessively, but he's constantly surrounded by gay people. It's not just that he himself, it's not like, people have this narrative of like, well, homophobia, they call it. You're so afraid of gay people because you're gay yourself. But it's not just that, right? It's not just that Joe McCarthy had homosexual proclivities. It's also that he was surrounded by people with homosexual proclivities, right? It was like they were attracted to him. Like McCarthy's office, it wasn't just Joe McCarthy, you had Roy Cohn, you had David Shine. It was like gay people were attracted to Joe McCarthy. So it was like the guy was very, very gay, and he was obsessively hating gay people, and gay people were running to work for him or something. The whole thing was very, very bizarre. The more you read about Joe McCarthy, once Harry Truman was out of office, once a Republican was in office, they were able to start moving against him. And they just showed the congressional hearings on national television. And it was very much set up. They did it to make him look bad, but they brought the TV cameras in to show what he was doing, to show him, like there was an elderly black woman who worked in the federal government, and he interrogated her and was really mean to her, basically. And she didn't do anything wrong. Her name was similar to the name of somebody who had subscribed to the Daily Worker. Oh my God, right? Someone who had subscribed to a communist newspaper had a name similar to hers. And on that basis, they tried to destroy this Black woman who worked as a secretary, tried to destroy her life. And people saw this on TV and they're like, this guy's an asshole. Why is he doing this? Right. And then the Army hearings, where it was basically for reasons that, he was basically demanding special treatment, demanding that David Shine not serve his Army service when he was drafted, demanding that David Shine get special treatment and not have to do any work in the Army. And that was because David Shine worked for Joe McCarthy and was Roy Cohn's boyfriend. And all of that, it was all, it all kind of came crashing down. And Joe McCarthy, and CBS News and others, and that Joe McCarthy was basically hurting the interests of American imperialism. Now, what I did not realize is that Joe McCarthy very much had a national following. He went around the country giving speeches. And that the people who liked him the most were people who worked in manual labor jobs, construction workers, right? Steel workers, bricklayers, people that worked in construction trades tended to like him. A lot of them were Irish, and Joe McCarthy was Irish. And, and that Joe McCarthy had a way of speaking as an Irish American. He would yell and scream, and he would get red in the face. And he was very, very outspoken about being a Roman Catholic. And Roman Catholics during that time were, considered to be kind of outsiders. Most of the American elite were WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And that, while Joe McCarthy did go after a lot of Jewish communists, he also went after a lot of WASPs, a lot of wealthy New England people who'd supported Roosevelt, right? A lot of the Roosevelt folks were Harvard and Yale and, wealthy New England folks who were attracted to communist ideals, were, like the Roosevelt administration, were part of that Rockefeller Eastern establishment or whatever. And that there was a weird populist edge to Joe McCarthy, that he was an Irish Catholic guy who got really angry and red in the face and was fighting against these stuck-up New England elite guys who are communists. And and he had a little bit of a Midwestern accent. You listen to Joe McCarthy talk, the communists, and, it's Wisconsin, right? But it's not, he has a little bit of a Midwestern accent. I am fighting against the Communist Party. Joe McCarthy was kind of an icon. Could he have run for president in another life? Could he have become the fascist dictator of America? No. And that there's a lot of people who speculate that. He didn't really have a plan. He was just somebody who discovered that there was a certain button he could push, which was anti-communism. And with that button, he could get a lot of attention for himself in the media, and he could defeat any political rival. And he was very, very good. He had created a mechanism for taking down anyone who got in his way, and he created a mechanism for making himself very, very famous. And very much a media celebrity. And that was Joe McCarthy. And it's very interesting. And what really launched Joe McCarthy was the Chinese Revolution. He was phase two of the Red Scare of the 1950s. But one thing about the Red Scare of the 1950s is there was a lot of wild propaganda films from that period. So I thought tonight it might be fun to look at some of them. Here's a clip. This clip I love. This is the father is confronting his son. The son has become a communist, and the son is supposed to be brainwashed, and the father is just horrified that his son has become a communist. This is the clip from one of these 1950s anti-communist propaganda films.
I've heard some rather disturbing reports about you.
Such as?
Such as the fact that you're spending so much time with people who are nothing but communists.
Nothing but communists. Well, maybe there's nothing but communism for people who aren't afraid to think. Look, Dad, if you want to find out how I stand on anything, just ask me. Don't waste your time by listening to a lot of stool pigeons.
You don't know what you're saying, Paul. You don't know what communism really means.
No, but I'm learning. And what I'm learning makes more sense to me now than anything I've ever learned before. Your world is dying, Dad, and it's burying itself in the dry rot of imperialism and colonialism. Communism is building a new world right in front of your eyes, and you can't see it.
I saw communism at work before you were born, Paul. I remember the horrible, senseless violence, the bitterness. I saw the terror in Kiel and Berlin.
You remember a man named Hitler? That's where your violence came from. But people like you couldn't see that either until it was too late.
Paul, let's not quarrel about history. Think about America, our country. It's been good to us. Well, did all this happen?
I remember when you made that speech at a 4th of July picnic. I was about 12. And it sounded great. Then. But somehow you flag wavers never get around to mentioning wars, depression, big business government, bigotry, Middle Eastern oil, the China lobby. What's the matter? Don't you read between the headlines?
No matter what you say, Paul, and no matter how big our problems are, there's still the most important thing of all. We have freedom here. Freedom to make what we can of our own lives.
Freedom to conform. Freedom to make the proper responses when somebody pushes the propaganda button.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the brainwashed communist son in one of these 1950s films. Just shout out, if anyone wants to ask me a question for the second half of our show, questions can be sent via Rumble Rants. You can cash at me at CalebMoppin22, but the best way, the absolute best way to send questions, buy me a coffee. Boom. You can type as long as you want. It's a great way. So yeah, we're taking questions for the second half of our show. But there's another one of these 1950s anti-communist propaganda films, and it's about a little town being taken over by the communists. The Communist Party, the communists invade, the Soviet Union invades and takes over a little town. And it's like, what would happen if it was like, so I'm going to put that one on. We're going to have a little fun with that one as well. I'll stop it and comment on it. Well, I mean, we're just having a little fun here. I'll probably talk about some other things, and then I'm just going to answer your questions. I see we've already got a couple Rumble Rants that have come in, so send some buy me a coffee, make me happy. And yeah, we'll react to the anti-communist propaganda films, and we'll go from there. Happy October 1st. Happy anniversary of the Chinese Revolution. We're looking at what was happening in America in response to the Chinese Revolution, the Red Scare, and all of that. Here we go.
Nightmare, the result of a troubled conscience. But there are some people, like Jerry, who have to learn it the hard way. And this is the hard way.
Your permit number, please.
Permit number? Operator, I don't have a permit. I just want to call my house. I want to talk to my wife.
No personal calls are allowed without a permit from the commissar. You will get off the line, please.
Operator.
No personal calls are allowed without a permit from the commissar. You will get off the line, please.
it gives. Come along, comrade.
My congratulations, comrades. Now that you've become acquainted with the enlightened communist system, in contrast to the outdated capitalistic way of life, you are now prepared for the next step of your indoctrination, which will be most difficult. When the moral fiber of the United States weakens and the economy collapses under the pressure of competitive coexistence, you will assume control. You will move into every phase of American political and economic life. It will be your responsibility, comrades, to purge the minds of the reactionary Americans so that they will welcome the enlightened Soviet system and conform without resistance to the dictatorship of the proletariat. Thanks to you and your dedicated comrades, the whole world will soon bow to the hammer and sickle. But remember, we must be alert for the slightest sign of weakening of the bourgeois capitalists. You will find that duplicity, deceit, treachery, and inconsistency can be effective weapons against these gullible Americans. Again,
deceit, duplicity as effective weapons against these gullible Americans. All right, they got him.
my congratulations, comrades. Continue the good work.
Say, could you tell me what... Yes, comrade. Nothing. Nothing, never mind. Thank God you're all right.
I have something to do.
Gee, Helen, I'm sorry I'm late. Something strange happened. Something very strange. I was standing in the plaza...
Never mind that. But you are disturbing the children. Their meals are to be consumed without interruption.
I don't blame you for being sore, but I'll make it up to you. Tomorrow night, we'll have an early dinner at the steakhouse. Then we'll take the kids to the drive-in movie.
That would be quite impossible. Tomorrow night, you've been selected to address the Parent-Teachers Committee.
The what? Oh, no, there must be some mistake. They don't want me.
Tomorrow night, he's been selected to address the Parent-Teachers Committee.
What would I talk about? How Jimmy's team lost a Little League championship last year?
The subject of your address has already been selected for you. The theme will be how the new communistic life benefits children.
Oh, wait a minute.
The theme of your address has been selected for you. It will be about how the new communistic life benefits children.
What if I don't want to talk about that? What if I don't want to talk at all?
I would advise you not to object. Recently, the party learned that you were on the debate team while in school. They were very disturbed that you kept this fact a secret from them. Experienced speakers are needed by the party. They'll make very good use of you.
That's right, and next week you will make another speech to the young pioneers.
Oh, really? And what am I to say? Or does the party have that figured out, too?
Your topic will be Communist Youth and Industry. You will tell about the success of the school reform plan and the record yield of corn harvested on the children's farm.
Why is it that everybody knows what I'm supposed to say except me?
The speech was delivered here yesterday, and the children took it to school with them.
They told us that if we learned it, we would understand the communist purpose.
Oh, they did they? Well, I just happen to be your father. If you don't mind listening for a minute, there are a few facts I'd like to explain to you.
Sergeant, check the kitchen. You look in the back. I'll be upstairs.
Hey! What is this? Where do you think you're going?
We have no time for explanations. Already we are 15 minutes behind schedule.
Okay.
Only in communist countries do the police raid people's homes. That never happened to Uhuru or anything like that. Didn't happen to Scott Ritter. Didn't happen to, clearly you have to have a communist government for the government to storm into your home because of your political views. Let's keep that in mind.
Who sent your why? You're not going to take another step until I see your warrant.
Warrant? We need no warrant. As a member of the Young Communist League, your daughter has volunteered for farm work. She's to be transported immediately. The truck is waiting outside.
Wait a minute. Let me get something straight. You say my daughter volunteered?
That is correct. Here's the signature. Requesting transport to the People's Collective.
Signature on that piece of paper is false. And everything you've said is a lie because my daughter would never leave here of her own free will.
Sergeant!
You've got no right to be in this house. I'm going to give you just 10 seconds to get out of here.
Daddy? It's true, Daddy. I did volunteer for farm work.
Linda, why?
The party convinced me that I should free myself of the lingering bourgeois influence of family life.
The party convinced me that I should free myself of the lingering bourgeois influence of family life.
I am ready.
Linda, honey.
Do not interfere. It is for my own good.
And Comrade Donovan, do not think that your deviationist remarks shall be overlooked. They will be reported to the proper authorities.
Helen.
Morning, Slim. Hello, Rice. How's it going? Hi, Mike. Hello, George. Hey, what's this quota business?
That's today's work, comrade.
Hello, Pete. Having a little trouble. Bertha doesn't seem to be in a working mood.
The lathe must be fixed immediately. You have a quota to fulfill. If you fail, we'll all be held responsible.
I'm doing the best I can. Quota or no quota, I can't do anything till I get this fixed.
Well, then I advise you work during your lunch hour. The quota must be met, and Comrade Commissar isn't interested in excuses.
Honey, I overslept. The kids get off to Sunday school all right? Boy, it's a beautiful day. As soon as they get back from Sunday school, why don't we all pile into the car and go over... Hey, what is this? Someone going on a trip?
You could call it a trip. Actually, the children are going away to a state school.
Now, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. I don't know what's happened to you or what they've done to change you, but you're not going to send these kids away.
Oh, she's not sending us away. It was our idea. We learned in school that home life does not encourage the growth of the collective character which the party wishes to develop in its young people.
We learned in school, what is it? We learned in school that home life does not cultivate the mindset of collective character that the party wishes to cultivate.
It's your fault. You should have spent more time training us to think along party lines.
It's your fault. You should have spent more time training us to think along party lines.
Instead, you yourself have been guilty of deviationism and bourgeois sentimentalism.
Instead, you yourself have been guilty of deviationism and bourgeois sentimentalism. Wow, gotta love those kids.
As a member of the Young Pioneers, it will be my duty to report you.
You better listen to me. All of you. I don't want to hear any more talk about state schools and party lines and collective character and deviationism. This is going to be a family again, and I know just where to start. You two are going to Sunday school, and you're going right now.
Mommy, tell us!
No use to argue.
Mom!
This time, I'm going to overrule the party. Come on.
Dad!
They've been poisoning you kids with those lies long enough. Now you're really going to find out what the truth is all about.
We tried to tell you, Dad, but you wouldn't listen. There is no more Sunday school. Please take us home now, Daddy. Everybody's looking at us.
It's a mistake. Somebody made a big mistake. Come on, we're going to get this straightened out right now. Come on. Come on inside. Come on, Jimmy. What's happened? What have they done?
Keep your voice down, comrade. Otherwise, I shall have to report you.
Who put these displays in here? This is a house of worship.
You are mistaken. This is the People's Museum, and I warn you once more.
This place is a lie. Everything about it is false. These models? This was not invented by a Russian. The man's name was Bell, Alexander Graham Bell. And he was an American. Get that, comrade. Everything on this table is as phony as the town. The rotten system you call communism.
Comrade Donovan, you are accused of the following crimes against the state: subversion, deviationism, and treason. You have been given this opportunity to make a public confession of your treacherous violation.
Just a minute. This is supposed to be a trial. Who says I'm guilty of anything? Where's your proof?
The state needs no proof. It is up to you to prove your innocence.
How can I prove my innocence if I don't know what I'm accused of?
Well, they just told you he's accused of deviationism and treason and sedition.
Subversion against whom? Deviationism from what? Treason against what government?
The prisoner has been given his opportunity to confess. I ask now that he be sentenced.
Now, wait a minute. You've got to listen to me. They say I'm guilty of crimes against the state, but it's the state that committed the crimes. Why, they broke into my home without a warrant. Armed soldiers. They took away my daughter. They desecrated a house of worship and replaced religious objects with phony displays, and they called it a museum. They even tried to turn my own kids against me. My wife. Helen, you were there. You know that what I'm saying is true. Tell them.
Mrs. Donovan, this document contains your signed statement. It proves that your husband tried to turn your children against the communist state. Is the statement true?
Yes.
Lieutenant Martin, Comrade Kucheznov, Comrade Malenko. These documents contain your signed statements. They prove that Comrade Donovan is guilty of deviationism and treason. I want you to tell the court if these statements are correct. I will ask you each in turn. Comrade Kucheznov.
Yes, the statement is true.
Comrade Malenko.
True.
Lieutenant.
The statement's true.
There's no need to continue this trial. The evidence against the prisoner is overwhelming. I ask now that he be sentenced immediately.
I want to see those statements. And maybe I'll have a few words to say in my own defense.
The prisoner will step back into the box. There is no need to examine the statements of the witnesses. The prisoner stands condemned by his own words. He has challenged the supreme authority of the state. He has questioned its practices and its decisions. And by these actions, he has proved himself to be a dangerous enemy to the proletariat. He must be treated as such.
He has proved himself to be a dangerous enemy of the proletariat.
As an ugly remnant of a diseased bourgeois class. He must be eradicated before the contagion can spread. Comrade Donovan, you are hereby sentenced to be shot. The time and place to be decided by the court.
Shot. I suppose that's the only sentence you could give me. Because there's no place in the communist world for a man who believes that all men were born free. And the right to search for the truth. That's what you're really afraid of, isn't it? The truth.
In a communist society, the state is the author of truth. And it will tolerate no questioning of its authority to define what is true.
That's where you make your mistake. Because communism isn't a system of government. Communism is a system for producing robots, slaves, who talk and think exactly the way you want them to. If they deviate from that pattern even a little bit, you destroy them and start all over again. You communists. You rattle off a lot of fancy words, don't you? Like imperialism and deviationism and proletariat. But there's one word you don't use. There's one word you fear. And that word is freedom. You just can't wait for the day when we believe your phony promises and
There's one word you'll never use, and that word is freedom.
lies, can you? We let down our guard and forget to protect our freedoms. Well, let me tell you something, mister. You've got a long wait. Because we believe in freedom. A brainwashed slave is no match for a free man in any kind of a fight. And don't you forget it. You hear me? Don't you ever forget it.
Anyway, I don't want to see this guy get shot. But yeah, there you go. There you go. That's the film. So that's some classic anti-communist propaganda. But yeah, you know, today is October 1st. I'm sure they're having a big parade in China, a lot of celebration for the anniversary of the revolution. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are happening. And yeah. So there we go. So, yeah, I don't know. I just thought I would talk about that for the first half of the show. You know, thought that was the government's shut down and McCarthyism and October 1st. And oh boy, look, we're in a wild, wild moment. I'll be real about that. We're in a wild, wild, wild political moment. But I am very proud that our organization persists. If there's one thing I can rely on in this world, it is the Center for Political Innovation. It is our brothers and sisters in our organization that are dedicated to putting forward a vision of a new America beyond imperialism, and that we will keep going. And we will keep going. And we will not back down. And as much as the American system seems to be all over the place these days, we will continue bringing our message of advocating for peace with Russia, peace with China, economic development of the United States, protection of our civil liberties and freedoms, protection of American working families from the chaos of the market. And we did a National Day of Action on August 15th. And we're going to do another one coming up October 4th on Saturday. And I'm really glad that we're doing it. I figured now would be a great time, an absolute great time, to put on the video from our last National Day of Action, just to show CPI in action. I'm very proud of what we do. We'll put that on just to show us in the streets of the country, raising awareness. I might have some more things to say, but we'll see. But yeah, we'll start out with, we were in 8 different cities on August 15th and 16th. And we are going to be in many different cities once again on this Saturday. So this is our last round of Peace Talks rallies.
Russia, peace with Russia. Build the peace bridge. Build the peace bridge. End Ukraine war. End Ukraine war.
are promoting peace, no war with Ukraine. And you can see the skyline of downtown LA and the famous Echo Park fountain there.
Out here in Boston today, we're here because last night the world breathed a sigh of relief. Our leaders have been hurtling towards the edge of the nuclear cliff, moving the world closer and closer to nuclear war. And although Trump has done many things that are absolutely horrible, last night he did something that was great.
Out here to support the peace summit between President Trump and President Putin, and to thank Tulsi Gabbard for making it possible.
That we are in extreme historic times right now. President Trump is currently in the great state of Alaska, attempting to make peace between the United States and Russia.
If what's happening today in Alaska will get us closer to peace, that's what we want. That's what we want.
Yesterday's meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin was a major step in the right direction. We need more dialogue, more engagement to come to the end of this war.
Hey, we're here in Portland, Oregon. CPI is on the streets of Portland, Oregon. We want to say that we support the peace deal being made between Trump and Putin in Alaska.
Hi guys, we're here at Liberty Station in San Diego. Liberty Station used to be a base that was purpose for training Marines and U.S. sailors during World War II. I thought it'd be pretty symbolic to come here, seeing as how, you know, the U.S. and Russia, they worked together in order to defeat Nazi Germany during World War II. I think this is also a beautiful spot to do this kind of activity in general.
Peace with Russia! Peace with Russia! Build the peace bridge! Build the peace bridge! Build the peace bridge! End the war! End the war!
Something amazing happened yesterday. I don't care how you feel about Trump, but this act of peace, and the fact that our president had the patience to go over there in Alaska. Putin came to our country just yesterday and they made a lot of progress. And so we're out here because we want to put more support for this kind of effort. I have 3 children, and I want my children to grow up in a world of peace.
By declassifying the proof that Russiagate was a lie, it wasn't a plot against Trump, it was a plot against peace. It was a plot by James Clapper and John Brennan and Hillary Clinton to prevent an alliance between Russia and the United States. And now Tulsi Gabbard has blown the Russiagate lie wide open and given the President of the United States the freedom to make peace again. This is part of a worldwide day of action called by Tyler Blotman and the Center for Political Innovation. Rallies like this are happening all over the United States and even on other continents.
We support peace talks and Ukraine war. 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 Now you'll notice that we have signs here for Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is the Director of National Intelligence, and she is the one who is really responsible for the fact that there are peace negotiations taking place. She revealed that Russiagate was a complete hoax and that there was no Russian interference in the 2016 elections. And with her revelations, she made it possible for President Trump and President Putin to sit down. We really appreciate what Tulsi Gabbard has done. Thank you, Tulsi. Thank you, Tulsi Gabbard. Thank you, Tulsi. Thank you, Tulsi.
Thank you, Tulsi.
Thank you, Tulsi. Thank you, Tulsi.
Russiagate was a big attack on peace, a big attack on the American people. And now that that's out of the way, thanks to Tulsi Gabbard, thanks to the journalism of Aaron Monte and others, Trump, you have the green light to make peace in Alaska with Russia. So let's get the job done because we have a lot of work to do. We have a new nuclear treaty to negotiate. The START treaty is running out.
And the opening that was created for that was made by somebody by the name of Tulsi Gabbard. We'd like to thank Tulsi Gabbard for allowing that to happen, because she revealed that Russiagate was an absolute hoax. And it was a complete lie. The fact of the matter is Russia did not interfere with our elections. In fact, they withheld plenty of information that they had on the Clinton administration, on the Clintons, etc., because they thought that she would actually win the election. It was a complete hoax.
The work she's been doing and continues to do, exposing Obama, Clinton, and others, has made repairing relations with Russia possible. She has shown Russiagate to be a hoax. She has shown they knew what they were doing. Obama rejected intelligence reports saying Russia was not interfering in our elections. Tulsi G has set us free to stop the march towards World War III. Tulsi G has set us free to stop the march towards World War III. Thank you, Tulsi. You have freed President Trump and given him the courage and the ability to finally have the meeting with President Putin that he should have had 8 years ago.
Have a moment of reflection that I call a prayer. Pray for peace. And as my faith is Christian faith, so I would like to do the prayer in my faith tradition.
This is our city, our beloved New York, and we say finally it's time for peace in America. Our hard-earned tax dollars should no longer be going to a foreign Eastern European country that has chosen the path of destruction in needless war.
We support peace talks with Russia. No more Ukrainian and Russian death. We support peace talks in Alaska. We need to end the war with Ukraine and stop all the killing and stop funding the wars now. We support the peace talks with Putin today, now.
Had it not been for horrible leadership that egged on this war, never needed to happen. It needs to end now rather than later.
Talking peace talks with Putin is big victory for us. Russia isn't the enemy. We are celebrating trust is the right thing by talking with Putin. This is the right path to peace. Putin is not the enemy. NATO is the enemy. NATO is the enemy here. Trump is not the enemy. It's NATO and the globalists and the imperialists. It's the people who want to start sending our children to a war that's not ours.
We just want to stop the lies and the killing and the funding for the...
Yeah, how about not taking money from war profiteers, companies like Raytheon, Adam Schiff?
Yeah, exactly.
Freaking liar. I don't want to hear it. Adam Schiff is the #1 guy responsible for, besides Hillary Clinton, promoting war with Russia. He's not our friend.
A peace deal to make, so let's get it done. Trump, you have the support of regular Americans. Regular Americans want this war to end. We want the killing to stop. So you have the green light. Make a peace deal.
Russia did not start this war. It was in 2014 when Victoria Nuland and other nefarious actors in the Obama administration overthrew the Ukrainian government and installed a fanatically anti-Russian government that bombed and destroyed the people of the eastern regions in Donetsk and Luhansk. It bombed them for 8 years. And there's a monument in Donetsk to all the children that have been killed by the Ukrainian nationalists, and it was Russia that put a stop to that. And we are so glad that instead of pursuing death and destruction, we can finally open the door to peace.
And sleepwalking Americans into war. Sweet lies about how war will solve all our problems while we degrade our own economy. We get poorer and indebted with expensive housing, cheap, crappy infrastructure that's breaking. What the hell kind of economy is this? What are we living for? I'm sick of my tax dollars going to endless wars. Alright? The whole country is sick of it. Pissed off. I'm showing some emotion because I'm speaking for a silent majority that I never see on the news for some reason.
Countries are trading with each other and doing business. They're not going to go to war with each other. And that's why that Bering Sea tunnel that Donald Trump is talking about with President Putin, that could be the road to a whole new world.
It's pivoting the United States away from the NATO countries and closer to the explosion of growth that is happening in Eurasia right now, in the Russian Far East. Every year in Russia, they have the Vladivostok Economic Forum. So many people in Siberia are being lifted out of poverty, and America can be part of that. American companies can make money from it.
Whether you like it or not, Russia is our neighbor. Alaska pretty much is only like 50 miles away from Russia. And something I learned after living in Harlem for a year and a half, and people do get shot out there. If you don't want to get shot, then you don't piss off your neighbor. And Russia is our neighbor.
We're not protesting that today. Here we are protesting for an end. Supporting, actually, not really protesting. I don't want to use that word. More so demonstrating in support of an end to the Ukraine conflict. And that's what we're trying to do here at Liberty Station. I'm going to be walking down to the waterfront and then going further into Seaport Village, perhaps going deeper into downtown San Diego as well. But we're going to see what kind of reactions we got. So far, it's been fairly positive.
We are here in Minneapolis to support the peace talks and end the Ukraine war. We want money for schools and jobs and health care, not for arming Nazis in Ukraine. America first, not Ukraine first. America first, not Israel first. We want our tax dollars to go for our country. We have infrastructure that needs to be built. Our bridges are falling apart. Our roads are falling apart. Let's spend that money and put Americans to work to rebuild the country.
With Russia, we need peace talks with Russia. No war with China. We need peace in everywhere. This is a global action. This needs to be talked. And I know the media does not talk about this, and this is an important issue. They're going to say how could he talk to Putin? Oh my God, Putin is scared. No, it's NATO that's the problem. NATO is the problem, not Putin. It's a joke. We are here to say that we do not want a World War III, and we agree with this peace talk between Trump and Putin. This is something that needs to happen. This is telling me that there is a chance for America, a new America, to work with BRICS. This is a chance for us. This is a chance for the American working class people. We need to pay attention to this. This is more important than this other media stuff and your hip-hop and your other music. This is what you guys need to pay attention to. The working class families in America are failing. Meanwhile, other countries are thriving because they're pulling away from NATO and they're paying their tax dollars in their country. Meanwhile, in Chicago, our infrastructure is failing. This is why we need a government of action that fights for working families. We need a government of action that fights for working families. So this is why we're here, because this is important. None of that hip-hop, none of that other stuff that you hear about, the ice fights and all of that trash, that's not important. This is important. This is what you guys need to pay attention on and keep your eyes peeled, because this is going to affect your livelihood. I know you guys seem like whatever, but it is something important. It affects your tax dollars. It affects everything you do in this country. And I know you guys don't care, you guys are on the phone, everything, on Instagram, but this is something that we're out here fighting for. We need a government of action that fights for working families. We need a government of action that fights for working families. And this is what the Center for Political Innovation is here for. It's for the working families of America that never had a chance. This is for us now. So we're doing this for you guys. This is for the American tax-paying person, civilian. This is for you guys. We are fighting for the American people, the working class people. No more wars. End the wars. We can't afford the wars anyway, so why are we getting involved with that? Tell Ukraine to fix that. That's their problem, not ours. Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we did August 15th and 16th, and we're looking to do it once again in the streets. It'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of things are happening, and yeah, we'll probably do the roll call now, and then there's been a number of Rumble rants that have come in. Also, Gabby sent a Cash App question. We'll just kind of see where it goes from there. It's a late night, but yeah, so names and locations, folks. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us? Who is with us? Who is with us? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us? Who is with us? Names and locations. Names and locations. Names and locations. We got Penny in Minnesota. Welcome. We've got Alex in Brazil. Good to have you with us. Names and locations, names and locations. Jenny in Cincinnati. Welcome, Jenny. Good to have you with us. Good to have you with us. We got Gabby in Chicago. Good to have you with us, Gabby. As always, great in the video. Charles in Brooklyn. Good to see you as always, Charles. Text me. We'll be in touch about activities this weekend. Auckland, New Zealand. Jacob in Wisconsin. Adelaida in Mexico. Ian in the Yukon Territory up there in Canada. Brooklyn, we got Phil in the house. Brother Phil, will do. Great, Charles. Glad you'll be with us. Good to see you. Anybody else? Names and locations. Names and locations. Names and locations. Names and locations. Has anybody here seen Callie? Kelly. Has anybody here seen Callie? You'll know him by his smile. Oh, his hair is red and his eyes are blue. He is Irish through and through. Has anybody here seen Callie? Callie from the Emerald Isle. Why am I singing that? I don't know. It's late. It's been a long day, and I've got a lot going on. Might be traveling pretty soon. No details about that now. A lot's going on. And hey, it's wild. We got our National Day of Action coming up, and one thing is leading to another thing, is leading to another thing, is leading to another thing, and woo, a lot is going on. But you all are amazing, and you all are reliable, and you all are strong, and I really, really love that about all of you. Anybody else? Names and locations? If not, we're going to go into the part of the show where I answer people's questions. We're going to do that pretty soon. We're going to do that pretty soon. If you're watching, that's always a good thing to do, isn't it? Isn't it always a good thing to do where we answer people's questions? We're going to do that pretty soon. Hold on. We're going to answer people's questions. Okay. Fair enough. Oh, we got Chris in Salt Lake City. We got Garland Nixon, good friend of the show. Good to see you. It was great to chat with Garland last night. Chris in Salt Lake City. Yeah, good times, everybody. Yeah. Shout out to Penny. She has recorded a full audio book of Africa's Flame, The Rise of Ibrahim Traore, which is great, including the lyrics to the anthem of the Union of Sahel States. We put this out. This is important that we did it. Penny wrote a number of articles for our website about Ibrahim Traore and his great work as an anti-imperialist. And I said to Penny, we need to have a pamphlet. We need to make this something that we can give out to people. And so shout out to everyone who helped. And we got a cover, a nice cover made, with some, some very funny, attempts at AI, and they gave us like an image of a lion and all that. We ultimately just made our own cover. AI refused to do it for us. And we came up with this short little booklet, this little pamphlet about Ibrahim Traore. It's actually very, very good stuff. It's really great. It's really, really great. So yeah. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll start answering questions. The first question was from Gabby, and actually it was not a question, but Gabby brought something to my attention, and cheers to Gabby. I would never in a million years have guessed that I would never have talked about this. This is why it's good to have a diversity of people. I never in a million years would have known that October 1st today is Black Dog Day, National Black Dog Day. Did you know that? I did not know that there was a Black Dog Day, but Gabby sent me this, that today is International Black Dog Day, the day in which we honor canines of dark complexion. It is Black Dog Day, and Gabby, I know her. She works with animals, and so she would know that. And she sent me images of this, hey, great. This is awesome. I'm trying to put the image that Gabby sent on the screen. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Yes, National Black Dog Day. National Black Dog Day on October 1st encourages the adoption of a dog in the darker shades. Unfortunately, black dogs are less likely to be adopted for no other reason than their coloring. Regardless of behavior, size, breeding, or personality or age, the phenomenon persists. Aw, I didn't know that. That's so sad. And yes, I love my 2 black dogs. Oh, wow. This is so neat. I never in a million years would have known that there's a holiday for dogs of the darker shades. I never would have known that. Thank goodness for Gabby. That's actually a really sweet, really, really sweet thing. Sometimes in life we just got to step back. We're always talking about all this international politics and all this, but this is a sweet thing that dogs of darker shades get adopted less. And today is a day in honor of dogs of darker shades. I think that's sweet. That is a really sweet thing. And Gabby, thank you for sending a Cash App to share that. That is just sweet. It's just adorable. It's just sweet. It's caring. I love that. I absolutely love it. And feel free, if you have something that doesn't seem political or whatever, you can still share it, right? Of course, Gabby. I think that was a great thing. I would have never guessed that today was Black Dog Day. I never would have guessed that there's an issue with them getting adopted and that they made a day. And I mean, that's if anyone wants to share something like that, feel free. Feel free. Very, very rarely does anyone send any question that I cannot answer. Sometimes there are questions that I just cannot answer. But that's rare. That's rare. Generally, if someone shares something or they ask a question, I think it's great. So there are 3 ways to send questions. Let me add. You can send a Rumble rant. You can send a Cash App like Gabby just did, but the best way is to send a Buy Me a Coffee. We got a few Rumble rants, and so I'm going to go through them. Leo Messi says, what liberals and conservatives both get wrong about Bukele? His economic policies or crackdowns. Well, look, all I can say is I used to like Bukele. I really did. I used to like him. He was pro Belt and Road. He was cracking down on the drug gangs. He was building infrastructure in El Salvador. And I used to talk about how he was better than the left, right? The left, the Marxist Party had been in power in El Salvador, but didn't do anything, right? In Nicaragua, the Marxist Party has been in power and done quite a bit to improve the country. But in El Salvador, the El Salvador Marxists, the ones that were in the Civil War, they were the ruling party for decades and accomplished nothing. And it was just, the country was just getting overrun by drug dealers. Then Bukele came in, and he was not a Marxist. He was from the right. But he started doing stuff and he started building infrastructure. I was really excited about him. But in the last couple years, Bukele has just really revealed his true colors. Number one, he's an ultra-Zionist. right? An ultra-Zionist. He supports Israel because he's a Lebanese Christian. He hates Muslims or whatever. So he's supporting Israel. Right there. It's like, whoa, buddy, what are you doing? What are you doing? Then he sets up a prison camp for, cooperating with Trump and taking prisoners. And I mean, Bukele, I have really lost my respect for Bukele. I really have. I really used to like him. You can find videos on this channel where I praise Bukele and say, oh, he's doing great things. Not anymore. I mean, he's just really, really, really let me down. He's really, really let me down. That's all I can say about that. And I mean, I see that you sent another super chat, Leo Messi, about how he's offered to hold Maduro if the U.S. arrests him. And he used to be very much admired by a lot of people in South and Central America, and now he's just widely hated. And I will say Venezuela at this point has a lot of support they didn't used to have because Trump is the one threatening them, right? And it's interesting how these things play out. But yeah, Bukele, he really has let a lot of us down. I will say one thing that I thought was interesting is when I was in Los Angeles for the No Kings protest, we ought to put that on the screen. That ought to be a good thing we ought to put on because that was pretty wild. But when I was in LA to cover the rioting, the No Kings riots, I actually ran into randomly a store of Bukele fan garb. Right? I don't know if it was pretty wild, but there was a whole store that specialized in shirts with Bukele on them, shirts about El Salvador, shirts with the Salvadoran flag on them. That was pretty wild. I didn't realize that Bukele had like fan stores set up in the United States. I don't know what that's about because I didn't think there's that many people who like him. And I feel like he's lost his popularity. The Latin American community in America, they don't really like him anymore because he's cooperating with Trump and they hate Trump and they hate the ICE raids, right? So he's lost popularity there. He's lost popularity in South and Central America. He's seen as cooperating with Trump. And I mean, and he's pro-Israel. There's a lot, unless someone is like a very, very dedicated, like evangelical Christian, most in Latin America are opposing Israel and its activities, its crimes, I should say, against the Palestinians. And yeah, Bukele he's really just revealed his true colors and been a tremendous disappointment. Now, there's going to be another new No Kings rally coming up. I think it's, October 18th, or I forget which day it is. They're going to have another day of No Kings, an anti-authoritarianism, No Kings day of action against Trump. And I'll be out there covering it and reporting on it. I'm not thrilled about it. But in case people want a review of what happened last time, I went to the last one. And I went to the last one. And so I will show you what happened. So, yeah, this is chaos in Los Angeles with No Kings.
In downtown LA, that seems the crowd is now throwing explosive fireworks towards the federal troops that are positioned around City Hall. Explosions are taking place, as you can hear behind me. Cars are going by, throwing explosives at protesters. It's not clear who is in the cars, but they are throwing explosives at the protesters.
All right, we're here in downtown Los Angeles, and as you can see, the crowds of people who came out to protest Donald Trump are still largely here in mass. Now, the protests that happened today are to coincide with Donald Trump's birthday and the military parade that is taking place. Many feel that a military parade on the president's birthday is a sign of authoritarianism. They came out to protest, the banner call being No Kings. No Kings is the theme of the protest. Now, today's demonstrations come as there was just a political killing that took place in Minnesota. Lawmakers were gunned down, and the country is reacting to a political killing, a political assassination that happened in Minnesota. Many people are quite upset by that. Now, It's important to note there are, at this point, federal troops here that have been deployed. President Donald Trump deployed federal troops to California in response to protests earlier this week that got violent. Protests that were sparked by the Immigration Customs Enforcement and their aggressive raids. They got violent, and Donald Trump sent federal troops here to Los Angeles without the permission of the governor of California. Governor Gavin Newsom felt this was a violation of his sovereignty as the leader of the state of California, and was outraged about the presence of the U.S. troops, National Guard, and Marines that were dispatched here. As you can see, a lot of Mexican flags in the crowd, a lot of American flags in the crowd. Many of the protesters very much opposing the immigration policies of the Trump administration, feeling that Donald Trump is engaging in authoritarianism. Now, we're not hearing much about the international stage. There have been some signs opposing the bombing of Iran by Israel, but there hasn't been much talk of that. Occasionally you will see some keffiyehs, some support for the Palestinians, though largely this demonstration is supporting the Mexican-American community, opposing the immigration crackdown, and accusing Donald Trump of authoritarianism. We see a lot of effigies of Trump in the crowd. We see a lot of denunciations of Donald Trump as a dictator, as a king. It's quite a mobilization. It's been going all day. The protests began in the morning, and there were thousands and thousands of people. And hours later, you know, this is getting into late afternoon. There's still a big crowd of people here expressing their opposition to the President of the United States. All right. We're here in downtown LA. It seems the crowd is now throwing explosive fireworks towards the federal troops that are positioned around City Hall. Explosions are taking place, as you can hear behind me. It's getting quite intense. Seeing quite a bit of smoke coming from down by City Hall where the crowd is. So one protester was seen covered in blood. It looks like he was hit with a police rubber bullet.
Everybody back up! Everybody back up! Everybody back up! He's a medic! He's a medic! He's a medic! Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! Everybody get back here! Okay, yeah, I like you guys. You're good. You're good. You're good. This is a fucking photo. You're good. I know. It needs to be packed. It needs to be packed. Come here. Come here. All right. Hey, man.
The crowd is bracing for what's happening next. It's not clear exactly what is taking place, but we continue to hear those loud banging noises. There's an intense crowd that seems to be standing off with the federal troops in front of City Hall, just down the street, as you can see. All right, so it appears that the federal troops have assembled and they're going to try and clear the street near City Hall. They've amassed military vehicles and horses, and they appear to be trying to clear out the street. That looks like tear gas. Now, we all just received notice on our phones that an unlawful assembly has been declared. The phone notice urges people to avoid the downtown area, and that basically announces that the federal troops or local law enforcement have declared the assembly of people, the thousands of people gathered here, to be unlawful. has been hit on the foot, apparently. One of the protesters here has been injured. He has an injury on his foot. They've kind of assembled a medical team, is trying to get him medical help. They're calling for 911.
Does anybody have a split?
I assume so. Cars are going by throwing explosives at protesters. It's not clear who is in the cars, but they are throwing explosives at the protesters. They're driving at high speed through the streets, throwing explosives.
Breathe. Go.
All right, so civilian vehicles have just gone by, driving by very quickly, throwing explosives at protesters. There's a car here that is leaking gas heat. As you can see, there's a burning car right over there. It's not clear what's coming out of the car, smoke, something to that effect. Yeah, as you can see, this car, there was smoke pouring out of it. There have been cars, vans driving by with explosives being thrown out into the crowd. Look at this car here that was pouring smoke. A lot of explosive kind of fireworks have been thrown into the crowd. As the federal troops tried to retake the street, we saw unmarked vehicles go through the crowd as they threw what appeared to be fireworks, little explosive devices into the crowd of protesters that were going by. Now, there has been tear gas dispersed. Some of the protesters are covering their eyes in a lot of pain from the tear gas, and we continue to hear the explosive booms. Now, some of the protesters have many fireworks, but also rubber bullets are being fired, and there is protesters who've been injured on the foot, injured in the face from rubber bullets. There are protesters that are injured from the tear gas, experiencing pain from the tear gas, and those unmarked vehicles were driving by and throwing the explosive devices, little mini fireworks into the crowds. So it appears that the streets in the downtown area are being cleared by law enforcement, but some of the protesters are determined to stand their ground, and a standoff is taking place outside of Los Angeles City Hall as we speak. Behind me, we continue to hear the explosions. We continue to see the Mexican flags, the American flags, protesters with masks on, protesters, some of them prepared with gas masks and helmets. Quite a scene in downtown Los Angeles. All right, local police on horseback are attempting to march down the street, kind of flanking the protesters who are facing off with the federal troops in front of City Hall. We see the protesters fleeing as the police on horseback are approaching. All right. Okay. Can you hear me? All right, so it seems that an amassing of police is kind of trapping the protesters who are still near City Hall. The streets are blocked off. A number of police in riot gear and a number of police vehicles are kind of closing in on the downtown area and City Hall. From every angle, police on horseback, police marching with riot gear, police vehicles, to make sure there's no escape. Now, a number of protesters are trapped down by City Hall. An army of police has kind of closed in on them, surrounding the streets around City Hall so that there's no escape. A number of the protesters are on the streets in front of City Hall still with no way out, where they're standing off with the federal troops. As you can see, a number of police vehicles, police on horseback have just closed off any of the streets that would provide an escape. Yeah, no, that was a wild day down in LA, and shout out to the LA comrades who were with me, as we were running from tear gas and filming in the middle of the street and all of that. Shout out to all of you. It was a wild day. We didn't expect it to get the way it did, and it was pretty wild. So we got a couple other Rumble rants that have come in. Okay, so the State Department staged a fake communist takeover of a town in 1950, and a couple people had a heart attack. Yeah, that was a famous incident that they did. That I remember that, and that's kind of fits with that video I just showed you. But they actually tried to do it in real life, and then Todd Fox sent a Rumble rant that just has a W on it, and so maybe he thinks I won. Thank you, Todd. I do appreciate the Rumble rants. Always appreciated. Now, Penny wanted me to send this. I love Penny and I love Tom. Tom is in this video. Tom is a beloved member of our community. I will say this is a little bit awkward, but I will show it anyway, just because it's a good thing. We support obviously the Union of Sahel States, and this is Tom, a member of CPI out in Minneapolis, and he is reading the lyrics to the anthem of the Union of Sahel States. Now, ideally, if you're talking about like an African union, you would want a black person to read it, right? It's kind of awkward that this is a white man, but Tom is a very skilled, person with a theater background. So this is Tom reading the AES, Union of Sahel States anthem's lyrics with march music, African marching music behind him. Here we go.
Homage to the people of the Sahel, heir to great empires, bearer of a new era that announces liberty and progress under the banner of epic battles. People of the AES, intrepid and sovereign by word and by arms, break the chains that hold you so that your wishes return to you. And the fertile spirit of Africa spreads. Soldiers we all are, determined, resilient, and united, so that the AES remains one space, one people, one destiny. People of the AES, people of Africa, of tenacity, of blood and sweat, you will write history so that proud of their past, your children will forge the present and build a better world. Soldiers, we all are, determined, resilient, and united, so that the AES remains one space, one people, one destiny. People of the AES.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was awesome. That was very, very cool. I actually enjoyed that more the second time. I watched that before, and now I saw it a second time, and I actually enjoyed it more the second time. Tom is a lovely fellow, really. Now, Leo Messi says, I heard Putin say he didn't want movements like Black Lives Matter taking foothold in Russia. That sounds out of context. No, it's not out of context. What he's saying is he doesn't want, what happened during the Black Lives Matter, George Floyd spring. A lot of property was destroyed. A lot of statues were pulled down, chaos in the streets. And Putin, he is a leader who is building the country up to be stronger. And he says, we don't want to have rioting and chaos and instability in Russia. He's offering stability, right? I don't think that's, again, if you want to interpret that as Putin doesn't want movements against racism in Russia, I mean, you can interpret it that way if you want, but it's Russia. It's a different context, right? He's not saying, I don't want movements of people wanting equality. That's not what he's saying. He's saying we don't want rioting. I mean, the whole world saw what was happening. All the buildings burned and Kyle Rittenhouse and, and instability. And it was being supported by mainstream media. It was being supported. It was largely staged because they wanted to set the stage for Trump's ouster. And, it looked like a situation where, Putin is saying, no, we don't want, chaos, fomented by Western media and all that in Russia, right? I think that's pretty straightforward. I don't think that requires much explanation. I mean, again, I guess if presented over here to somebody who doesn't, follow it, there might be some things. And then Penny's asking me about Morocco. I haven't followed Morocco. I'll have to check on that. But good stuff. Look, we have a great organization. We're doing great stuff, folks. It is way after midnight. I've had a full day today. And like I said, I might be traveling. It looks very well like I'll be traveling soon. There's a lot on my plate. We got our rallies coming up on Saturday and a lot's going on. So I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to say good night for now. Be in touch, everybody. I'm going to put on the closing music. Shout out to everybody. We have a spectacular organization and I'm proud of everything that we have accomplished. Dare to struggle, dare to win. I'm going to put on the closing music. Thanks, everybody. New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today. All right. Thanks, everybody.